sure the audios are working properly and that sort of thing. Restart. Let's connect. Okay. Stop being annoying. Turn off, turn back on. Refresh. Right, to make sure all the audios are working alright. We are good on that front. Good evening, everyone. Stream, you would like to not buffer, please? That would be nice. Work with me. Thank you. Right. With that out of the way. Oh. Okay. Stream is not playing ball with me today for some reason. Sure nothing's downloading in the background for Yep. Right. Hopefully that's fixed a little bit of the issues. Hopefully that's alright. Now, hello everyone, and welcome to round number 12, which takes us to the Imola circuit, or the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Obviously, another one of the very classic tracks on the F1 calendar. A venue that only recently, as they got re-added back onto the sort of the real life calendar, obviously has seen a few races so far. And obviously looking at a little bit of real life, we will be driving around. If I can pull up a full picture, that would be nice. Thank you very much. We will be driving around what is 19 corners? 19 corners of the circuit. A very fast flowing track, but very easy to corner cut on. So you do need to be a little bit careful here and there with your steering of the white lines, as the track does not really tend to really want to work with you in a lot of things. You've got your one DRS zone, which will be on the curved home straight, and as I say, obviously takes a little bit more. It's not obviously a full straight in terms of the setup on that front. Obviously the second race to feature on the calendar, and see, going on to, so obviously 63 laps in real life. I believe it is 32 laps around this circuit the drivers will face tonight after the 5-lap race and the short quality session. We will see probably a lot of drivers invalidating laps due to the nature of the circuit just being sort of like that. The curbs are also not the most forgiving at points, so the curbs may throw a few drivers off. So you will need to look out for that as well. If you see a lot of yellow flags, that could potentially be your reason why. Obviously, the last time a real life race I believe was raced here was Max Verstappen, who won the race by 16 seconds from his teammate Perez, and Lando Norris managed to get, I believe, his podium from, I'm not sure if that's from 2022 or 2021. Yes, one of the two. So circuit length 4.909 kilometers or 3.050 miles, which takes us around a single lap of that. Obviously, you can take the full race distance, the 63 laps times that, and we half that to get the 50% of the race distance. But as I say, Imola, obviously a track with a lot of history. Real life obviously seen some fatalities over the years. Obviously has been changed a little since obviously one of the most infamous deaths in the history of the track, obviously more than one actually, was Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna, obviously one up and coming driver at the time, and one very cocky driver, but one that was often prone to not really giving a toss sometimes if it came to actually winning races. So we know from another thing that happened as well in his life, and that obviously we've only got 13 drivers here tonight, so It'll be interesting to see how all this plays out. Some drivers, as I say, may well struggle with the track limits more than others, but it will be interesting to see who those does struggle. So we're still just waiting for the drivers to get themselves back in. It is 9 o'clock, so we will be starting fairly shortly when Vapid, the host, decides to start the session. Obviously, I believe last week's race winner, actually we didn't have it. If you didn't catch last week's race, by the way, obviously China returned to China from the Shanghai International Circuit. Obviously, we had issues with the game. We did call the race at, I believe, around about lap 14, and half points were awarded for the race. So if you obviously looking at the standings now, as we are still waiting for the drivers to ready up. It is a Vapid who leads the standings on 120 points. Scott in second is on 93.5, obviously half points awarded. Paraquix is in third on 80.5 points. He has moved up one position to third, jumping Ansmaz. Which reminds me also, I need to charge my headset up because I can still hear beeping in my ear telling me that it's low on battery, so that's another thing that needs to be done while I remind myself. So if there's any buzzing, I do apologise for the stream. But I can't really do all that much about it. I kind of need the headset to be able to hear the cars. Kind of weird if you don't have a headset audio. You find it's actually one of the most important things to have. So, just wait 1 second. It's back. So your standings obviously going into the weekend. It is also Vapid, as we saw, is still leads the championship, carrying the Williams team. Obviously is so fresh, not really picking up the pace at this moment in time, and still looking for the constructors of Vapid, but he is having to very heavily carry the Williams team on that front. Ansman's obviously missing a race, will be away for yet another race. Kirby and Tom, obviously for 5th and 6th, the two Alpines have been very close this season. Obviously, they're looking for the constructors' title between the two of them. 57.5 points and 53 points. Angelos Mo on the Ferrari in 7th, 51.5 points, not too far behind. Checo in 8th, 51 points, only half a point behind Angelos Mo. Obviously, Checo having a quiet season, but is still in the top 8. Cal in P9 is on 44.5 to ahead of Adam Lee in P10, who's on 42. Scrub obviously in 11th, with Sora in 12th, obviously the A reserve. I believe he is full-time Mercedes now, has taken the seat of Scrub, 27.5 points. 1.5 points ahead of Pred in 13th. NT in 14th, obviously not seen last week. Berserker Mark and Kiwan obviously no longer within the league. Richie, I believe, is still here in 16 points. VC Ryan in 18th, with Senna in 19th, So Fresh in 20th, obviously Liller Williams, kind of letting the side down a little bit. JDM in 21st, Still World in 22nd, Woolsey in 23rd, Leclerc in P24, 25th is Spen. Going all the way down, VC Mike, Ryan Flying Rosie, who we obviously just seen last week, because Let's Go in 2 points, alongside Xavier Button. And Jinx rounds out the points finishers, as we are now waiting for the lobby to ready up. The constructors, Williams do lead the standing still, even though Vapid is doing a lot of the heavy lifting work in that team at this moment in time, having to heavily carry his teammates So Fresh. It looks like it's dry weather at the moment, so no idea what the weather will prevail. Obviously, weather could play a huge part in all of this. Alpine are in second, 11.5 points. Obviously, the much more consistent team. They may not be the quickest team at certain points, but they are they will have the more consistent point scorers if both Tom Gordon and Kirby can get both the cars into the points. Haas obviously breathing down the neck of Alpine, 108.5 points. Scott and VC Mike, obviously VC Mike is not. VC Mike, I believe, is not here, or VC Ryan rather, is not here this week. You have a car out on track. I believe that's Cal, I believe, who's come out on track first, or is it? It is Cal who's going to be first on track. We are indeed on the soft compound tyres. track there, as I say, currently at this moment in time. So, obviously, carrying on with the standings, is we're on board with Cal, who's his first car out on track, who will give us a lap of this circuit. Red Bull are in 5th, with AlphaTauri in 6th, McLaren in 7th, Mercedes are in 8th with Alfa Romeo in 9th, and Ferrari at the bottom of the points with 61.5. So that is your rundown for all of that. And now, heading into the action, obviously Cal will take us around. Obviously, looking at this, obviously looks very overcast, so we could potentially see some rain interfere in this. Does depend on if it will or not. Cal will take us around the Imola circuit, coming up to start on his first run in the Aston Martin. So, good run required off this final corner. Don't run too wide, you will get an invalidation on that final corner. DRS will be enabled as we head through onto the curved main start-finish straight. DRS straight, obviously this is the only DRS on the track. Now into turn 1. This is where if you get close enough you can make a move in the race, but you do need to be close enough as it does tighten up. Heading in towards turn 2. Got to be careful not to run wide out there as well. You can invalidate on that particular corner as well. So into the first sector. Good clean lap so far from Cal. Not keeping it well within the white lines, but this could be just the Cal getting his eye in, so we could see more pace from the Aston Martin driver later on, heading up the hill towards the end of the second sector, coming up fairly shortly. Got to be careful coming up to here, as it's very easy to invalidate in these particular sequence of corners. Florian Rosary has joined. Obviously he is a reserve, what I saw last week. He would definitely know he is racing. Senna has retired from qualifying, so I'm not entirely sure what has happened for the Mercedes driver. A little bit of a lock up there from Cal will have cost him some time, but that is one of your ideal lines. You do have to use those curbs coming out of that corner that Cal has just gone through. The Aston Martin driver now coming through to finish it as he goes just past the 50-meter board and goes onto the brakes. The Aston Martin driver heading through now into the final corner, so Cal will be coming around and completes our first lap on the board. DRS will open up for the Aston Martin driver and it will be a 1:17.054. I believe the next car, I'm going to get real confused if I don't have this on actually, so we're going to go and find, I believe it is Richie, who does indeed go quicker, a 1:16.9 in the Red Bull. And I believe the next car across the line will be Adam Lee. I believe he's just started though, so he will not be setting a time at this point. He's only just started on that lap. There's a Ferrari though, that's a Ferrari in the pit lane, so that will not be a car setting a lap time. I do see Scott, the only Haas here this weekend. Obviously Scott, very much a driver with a promise and a lot of pace. Obviously 1:24.0, I believe he can definitely find time on that lap. That's definitely not Scott pace, he can definitely find time. That's one thing you will have to note as well. On pit lane exit, you're going to have to be careful of traffic. That's fine, Rosie has now just left the session again. So, Scott is indeed going again. That's Tama sort of behind him on and out lap, so that will not be him. That is an Alpine on a lap. I believe that is Tom Gorian, who's coming around. Although I think that might have been his teammate who has invalidated on lap. Yes, it is Tom Goring, cost line 1:20.8. Again, we probably haven't seen the best of the laps from the drivers yet. We are expecting to see times probably dip down, maybe into the 15s potentially, but I don't really have much of an idea on what the drivers can do quite yet, due to the nature of the track being a little bit on the probably green side still. There's obviously not much rubber being laid down yet. Tom Goring is improving on his lap, so we'll come back to him in just a little bit. I believe that is Kirby. Vapid does cross the finish line. If I could find Vapid, that would be nice. He does indeed set pole position at 1:16.645, 3/10 quicker than Richie. Why has it got the AI in? That's gonna bug me. Scott indeed go quickest. We haven't seen that, obviously. Kirby has invalidated again. So we'll go to Adam Lee, who has not yet set a lap time. Scott does go quickest at 1:16.5, 1/10 quicker, or just under a tenth quicker than Vapid in the Williams. Obviously Vapid heavily carrying that Williams team this season so far in RFL. Obviously so fresh, needing to pick up the pace just a little bit in the second Williams car and help his team out maybe with a little bit of the heavy lifting when it comes to the points. Adam Lee is purple in sector 2, using a lot of the curbs. You will see the drivers do use a lot of the curbs. Now that is the best way you're going to get lap time out of the track, and if you don't, you're going to struggle to find certain lap time, and you may lose a lot of time that you may not expect. That is the same area as well. You do have to be careful of. Obviously, this track is risk versus reward. You want to use most of what you can with the track, but do be warned, the track will bite back if you are not careful. Adam Lee goes P2. Good lap time there from the Alfa Romeo driver, a 1:16.612, just marginally ahead of Vapid. And find TMS Sora, who I believe is just coming around to finish. Obviously Sora we've seen has won a race, obviously by virtue of the reverse grid. So we never really got to see what Sora actually could do, but Sora has shown pace. It was a bit unfortunate in China with some stuff that happened. He just take it the board on the way past. 15.5. Does improve and is marginally, and I mean marginally, quicker than Scott in the Haas. Not by much. I believe, yep, oh, it's 1 second, that's actually 1 second, I thought it was a little bit more than that, a little bit less than that actually. It's actually a second quicker, so there's the benchmark, and that is Sora saying, right, come and get it if you want pole position. Obviously this is just for the 5 lap race, so the 5 lapper then decides the 50% grid, if you're brand new to the league. That does decide where all the drivers will start. I believe Cal is further, I believe Cal is just out of the pits. Actually, So Fresh is actually on a lap, the other Williams driver. Let's see what he can do. Obviously, we really haven't seen much of So Fresh in terms of he's not really set the world alight. He's got a few points here and there, but he's if he wants to be a number 2 to Vapid in this case, then he's going to have to find a little bit of pace to maybe get himself a little bit higher up and maybe score a few more points. But obviously, I think a few factors haven't really gone his way this season. That is a little bit wide. I'm amazed he's managed to keep hold of that lap. Obviously, that is the thing with the corner cut limits on the track. They are the most inconsistent. Sometimes, like what you've just seen in the Risto Fresh, you will run wide by an inch and you will get an invalidation. However, you can run wide, as I say, not get invalidation. However, you can run an inch wide on two tires on the track, on the limit, on the white line, and you will just get an invalidation immediately. It's just weird why that works like that, but it's just Codemasters in F122. So Fresh is coming up to the line. Obviously, we're going to see a lap time from him, an 18.5. Pops himself there. He's still in the pits, not yet set a lap time. We're going to go back to Kirby. I believe Kirby was there. I believe he's started. Cal is also just starting a lap, so we'll see how the Aston Martin driver's getting on. He's up by... Oh, he's just invalidated as he came through. That's a good example right there. As we just see a little bit of flashpoint in the edge of it there. How easy it is to invalidate. Just the nature of the track does not lead to it being the most friendly towards just the... Obviously that is a contentious point with the game that sometimes does not exist with real life, is the track limits are not the same in the game as what they are in real life on Strict. We've known this has always been the case for a little bit. Oh, yep, there goes Kirby. Obviously that was 4 wheels off track. Kirby has immediately backed off, as has seen. He can save some ERS and go again. So we'll find his teammate, who I believe is there. Scott actually is about to come in the final corner, so we'll go on board with Scott quickly. He's about to cross the line, and the only Haas here this week, so getting the points this week and bringing it home. 1:16.525. Does improve marginally, and does go ahead of Adam Lee. Sora still quickest though. So Sora looking to make marginal, massive inroads in making his mark on this championship, obviously halfway through the season, so anything is still possible. Tom Goring just coming around the final corner, and the Alpine. Let's see what the first of the Alpines can actually do. Obviously Kirby not able to get a lap in on 16.9. He pops himself into P6 just ahead of Cal. Cal indeed, who came back into the pits because he did not manage to get a lap on the board. Let's see, where's Angelo? Let's see what he's doing. He's coming around to finish, as Flying Rosary has retired, so I don't know what's happened there. I believe he's done that in the pits, or he's had an incident somewhere, but I don't see him anywhere, so I'm assuming... Oh, that looks like that was on track. You may be in trouble for that one. I'm not entirely sure. Angelo pops himself into P5 in the meantime, a 1:16.682. Very congested in that midfield, not much between second and I believe about 7th at the moment, so very close grid, so looking good at the moment. Obviously we're going to go back to Kirby, let's see if he can actually get a lap on the board. He is purple in sector 2, so let's see if Kirby, obviously, who has shown glimpses of brilliance this year, but has been let down by a few weird factors in the game itself, which has meant that he has not been able to actually see the promise of some of his pace. Obviously, was denied a podium in Singapore with a weird type of thing that happened. Kirby's gone P14, P10. I believe that is a let off, so he's definitely gonna go again. And Lee has backed off, so he's not gonna be going for laps now. So Sora, currently on our lap. Let's see if we can find any improvement with the... I believe he's harvesting energy, so I believe that he is not happy with these laps, so he has indeed decided to back off. Yes, he's 5.7 seconds slower. However, Adam Lee is right up tucked behind the Mercedes, and this is not the most ideal positions for the Alfa Romeo driver to be in, because you don't want to have the dirty air, which is going to affect your front aero and your tyre grip, because the front end will just wash away. However, he's just sitting in the slipstream and trying to get that, obviously, of the car in front. So there's a little bit of what you can do, as Sora will go for yet another lap, so we will stay with Sora and see what Sora in the Mercedes can actually do. Obviously, full-time Mercedes driver for the, I believe it's his third race in the Mercedes. Recent addition, obviously, to the league, has put his marker down. Obviously, China didn't really show his potential. Obviously, was involved in a few shunts. Obviously, some of them not his fault. So Sora, as I say, looking to make his mark and bring himself. Obviously, we've yet to see Sora, obviously, from the front of the field, obviously, to win a race. Obviously, we've seen that he won it with the reverse grid due to the format of that. But he, as I say, he does have pace. Obviously, I have seen him racing in other leagues and seen the fact of what pace he does show, as he has just invalidated. So that's a good curse right there. He does back off Adam Lee, if I could actually do that. Adam Lee's also invalidated, so that's unfortunate. They're stuck behind each other yet again. Hopefully those two will be far apart. Cal has come back into the pits. That pit lane entry is going to be interesting as well. Certain drivers may get caught out by that. The F1 Checo is the only one currently out on track, so we'll go back to We'll go to Checo, obviously, yet to get a lap time on the board. Also, another thing to note about this particular track is how much this track eats ERS. Once you've used the ERS, you don't normally tend to get it back. So you really need to use the DRS to really follow another car and then make your move when it's strategically required. Which is something that's going to be required. Obviously, it's a lot like certain tracks are very much just DRS trains. Another one of a good example of that is Paul Ricard. In terms of it just being a DRS train, and if you're in DRS, you can save DRS behind a car while using DRS and keeping yourself just within touching distance. However, dirty air also plays a part the closer you get, and that can be a bit of an issue, but we'll see how Checo gets on. Obviously, a bit of clear track. He's a little bit out of sync with everyone else, so everyone else is still in the pits at this moment in time. I believe Angela Smot is out on a lap as well, as is Scott. Obviously, Scott looking for lap time improvements as well. Let's see how close. Obviously, Checo looking to get himself maybe into the midfield. Obviously, Checo, quiet season for him, but has had some good results, as well as some results that could have perhaps gone his way due to without other factors being getting in the way for the Aston Martin driver. The second one, obviously, Aston Martin again have been a very sort of competent package with Cal and Checo. Obviously, Checo is just invalidated, so unfortunately Checo's going to have to go again, but he does probably have enough fuel to go again. So we'll go back to him in a little bit. We'll see where Scott is. Scott actually backed off, so he's not happy with his lap either. Angelismo is out on a lap at this moment in time. I believe he has also had an issue on his lap, or has backed off. So we're going to go to SoFresh, about half a second up. Again, the track invalidations are just a little bit inconsistent. As you see there, it looks like he only dips 2 tires off the track. However, he just gets an invalidation and then it causes a lot of trouble. Now everyone is going to start coming out on track, so that little nice bit of clean air that the drivers would have had that went out early, now they don't have. But the track now, as I say, it ramps up to probably the most amount of grip you're going to get at any point on this. Obviously, we don't know if the drivers are running completely dry setups. Obviously, no one has mentioned in the chat if it is going to be a dry or a wet race yet. As SoFresh obviously is still probably going to come around and go again. Angelismo's backed off, so he is done. He's going to high C, will start as P5. Scott is only just coming around to maybe go around for another lap if he has enough fuel. He has enough ERS, of course, but it's just on if he has enough fuel to go once again. Excuse the tiredness, I've been at work a little bit today. So, any yawning or any pauses, that's probably why. We'll try and keep those out as much as possible. Sora's went back in the pits as well, so Sora is done. Adam Lee, I think, has backed off again and has had to go for yet another lap. Some drivers really struggling to keep it within the track limits. So let's see who was the first one round on a lap. I believe Cal is going to be the first one to come round. So we see how Cal does. Angelismo has indeed. He is finished for the session. It's going to be no improvement for Cal there. Obviously, he's still to go around again. I believe that it was Kirby just behind. He is actually, no, that is not Kirby. That was obviously Tom Gorian, who has just started. Indeed it is. He is just starting a lap, so we'll go and go on board with Checo, who I really think, has he got a lap on? Yes, he has. I think, no, he invalidated again. So he did not improve. And we'll go to Richie, who was next up. Let's see where Richie can put himself. Stays P6 for the moment. So now Tom Gorian will be the next. Nope, that will not be the next car across the line. It'll be Kirby. 16.7 next car, and he improves on that time. Tom Gorian, nope, still not the right car. I think it's so fresh. 17.8 puts himself P10 ahead of AlphaRi, who has not served. Obviously, will be serving a qualifying ban, so he will be doing that. 16.3 from Adam Lee with 5 seconds left of qualifying. Does put himself into P2. Sora is still quickest. So the car is now to cross the line. It is going to be Cal. Obviously no time set, but he's still going to start P11, not last. Cal to cross the line. What is it going to be for Cal? 2.5 tenth improvement. 16.8 flat. Puts himself P8. And I believe Tom Gorian has popped himself a 16.4. Has popped himself into P4. Didn't mean for that to rhyme, but that's how it worked. Richie, I believe, will be next. He's marginally down on his time. Hopefully he can find some time coming out of this final corner that which can make or break your lap. The Red Bull driver coming across the line, and it's going to be at a slight improvement, but he stays P9. I believe the next car across the line is going to be Kirby, who is down in this time, so it's going to be no improvement for him. Checo next up. He's down in this time as well, so that looks like it is him done. Adam Lee, is he going to be going any quicker? I believe he is down on his time as well. So I think that is your qualifying results. As Adam Lee pops himself back into the pit lane. And that will do for qualifying in the RFL Round 12 at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Just waiting for the drivers to finish up, and we will be underway. So, that is your roundup. This is a terrible camera angle. Thank you very much, game, for giving me that one. Never like that camera angle. Anyways, your grid lineup for the sprint, the 5 lap race. It will be TMS Sora in the Mercedes, who will start from P1. Obviously his first lap on the board was enough for him to get pole position. 0.6 of a second separates himself and Scott, who is on the front row alongside Adam Lee, and Tom Gorian will share the second row, 3rd and 4th, with Vapid, Angelismo and Angelismo 5th and 6th, with Kirby and Cal 7th and 8th. Richie and SoFresh P9 and P10. AlphaRi with no time in qualifying ban will be P11. P12 is Flying Rosary with Senna and Checo rounding off the grid. Senna obviously crashing early on, and Checo just unable to get a lap on the board, and I don't know exactly what happened to Rosary. So that is your line up for the grid for the 5 lapper. Drivers are all just readying up for the 5-lapper race. Obviously, cold tyres play a small part in the 5-lapper race with no formation lap, which does make it a little bit more interesting to see how the drivers handle the colder temperatures. I believe somebody said from what I've seen, there could potentially be a glitch with the tyre temps again. Oh, we have rain, the 5-lapper race, which throws a little bit of a spanner in the works because obviously no DRS calendar. I don't know, you're not racing just now, so obviously you won't be able to race. Unfortunate for yourself. If you probably be fine for next week. So rain is going to throw a little bit of a, as I say, spanner into the works for everything that happens here. Obviously no DRS will be available in these conditions. We'll have a quick old look and see what the drivers will be starting on. Nope, I hate when it does this. It is going to be intermediates for the drivers. So obviously no strategy involved in this first race. That will come later on. But the drivers would probably have had to adjust a little bit, maybe wing setups, potentially brake bias, a few other things, maybe suspension settings that may well allow you to give a little bit more give in these conditions, obviously, because you're going to be on the power a whole lot earlier than maybe short shifting. Some of the drivers will find helpful due to the nature of the track not being the most forgiving in the dry and in the wet. It's probably worse with some of the curbs. You don't want to be as aggressive, and I'm not sure what word I was trying to think of there, but it wasn't coming to my head, of course. Thanks, brain. But all guns blazing. That was the term I think I was going to go with, but I'm not sure. That's the one I'm going to run with. But as I say, just waiting for all the drivers to ready up. Obviously, no idea if this rain carries over at the main race. It could be interesting if the qualifying was the only dry sequence of the actual event, but it will be interesting to see how it all plays out with the conditions as they stand. Obviously in 5 laps the rain isn't really going to shift, but we have seen in RFL before, if for the main race, if we have these kind of conditions, we have seen Paul Ricard, obviously the rain shifted fairly quickly. We went from wets to slicks, I believe, in about 10 laps, which was a very sort of a quick turnaround in terms of track evolution. I'm not sure if that's entirely realistic, but I believe with dry lines that could potentially be possible. But as the water kind of goes away, you will be wanting to use a little bit less of the wet damp patches in the track, because obviously not the grooves, but the tread blocks on the intermediates won't be nearly as much as what the wets would be. So it's about finding a delicate balance between getting good exits out the corners without really losing too much time by spinning the rears up too much, because spinning the rears up too much, obviously, for the people who don't run traction control, obviously some people run medium, it will be interesting to see how all of that plays out. With obviously you will see people that are on medium traction probably get better starts, because people with no traction will want to make sure they minimize the amount of wheel spin off the start and make sure that the back end doesn't get lost, because I do believe, I've never seen it, but it can potentially happen at any point here or there, is the fact of losing the back end off of the start due to not enough traction. But hopefully that does not happen with any of the drivers here today. Evening everyone who is in the chat this week. We have, I believe, Checo is the stream in the background, and Bot in the background as well. Hopefully you're alright, sir, and hopefully you're feel a bit better in the coming weeks. Looking forward to seeing you get back in the comments box again sometime soon. Obviously, been a little bit for that, obviously, for Button being in the comms box. There are reasons behind this. I won't go into them just now, as it's not really an appropriate time for that. It has been resolved though. What has been going on there? As I say, that will be kept 100% private and confidential, as we're still waiting for the drivers to ready up. So, we'll grab some refreshments in minutes. But as I say, if you want to grab any refreshments, anything like that, any popcorn, anything of that sort, and settle down for some racing action here in RFL. Obviously, the 8th season the RFL has actually ran for now. Obviously, a lot of history within league. Drivers come and gone. Some people obviously do recognise that I've been here throughout a few of the seasons, and a few of the owners that haven't really changed hands. Obviously, a few things here and there. I'm just kind of rambling while the countdown timer is indeed on. We are waiting for the final countdown timer to run out. We have 5 seconds left, and we will be underway. So we're going to have to be quite quick to pick up the camera angle because it's going to literally go straight to the lights. So, lights are on. 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go. Good start from Sora, however, not bogs down in the second phase, loses 2 positions, might lose 3. Tom Gorian is up his outside. Sora may well come back at him and may well do so with a little bit of a lock-up. There's a little bit of front wing, there's contact. Sora is round, so once again Sora not having that much fun. Sora, you're not allowed to reset to track, so that will be a penalty for you. It's also going to be a penalty for SoFresh, so that's been caught on the stream. Tom Gorian on the back of Angelissimo in the meantime. Obviously, I believe Adam Lee has pulled away a little bit. Angelissimo struggling in these conditions. May will not have the wing set up quite right. Checo and Cal side by side. Checo does get the move on his teammate once again. Yellow flag down the back of the field. I believe we've had an incident with Alpha Ari, who's down in 14th from 11th on the grid, as Ari is trying to get himself as close as possible to Scott. Scott getting the jump on TMS Sora on the start, obviously, as I was saying, with the traction on no traction users, it is a little bit of an issue as Rosary and that go side by side. A little bit of a wiggle from Scott coming out of the corner. Adam Lee revving out the gears to try and get the most he can out of that car, but not able to get close enough as of yet. People are still close, but as I say, the worry about this is if people get too far split apart, this could be a very long race, obviously. Once again, Scott does dip a little bit of tyre there, but is able to just get away with the use of the ERS, as Scott sets the fast lap to Grand Prix, 129.8. We're going to go back to Vapid, who is in the back of Tom, half a second is the gap. Actually, Richie and Cal going side by side. The Red Bull driver is going to get the better of Cal here, unless Cal is going to maybe potentially try and send it back up the inside. Richie runs a little bit wide. This is going to allow Cal to potentially get a cutback on the Red Bull driver, but Cal is quite cautious on the throttle and doesn't quite get close enough. As Callum J is rejoined once again, you're not going to be able to race. This is the race, and you're not going to be able to get back in. So there's a little bit of a moment there from Richie. The back end is not the most fun. Cal very wide there, and that's a little bit of a moment, and Sora has got past. Sora up to P9. So back, however, we're going to go back to the battle at the front as Vapid is still all over the gearbox of Tom Gorian. Tom Gorian obviously getting a decent start, obviously. There was a little bit of contact between himself and TMS Sora in the opening melee of the first couple of corners, which is quite easy to do considering the corners do tighten up and it can catch drivers out, and I think either there wasn't quite enough space left between the two drivers or Sora didn't quite judge the space right. We will never know on that front until we get to tickets later on. Sora, meanwhile, is bringing his fight back once again through the field, using the battery to try and get himself back at Richie. Let's see, Richie does use the battery, not much more battery. He's on about half the battery of what TMS Sora is. Sora with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Obviously an angry man in that cockpit after that first initial contact, which did send the Mercedes round, really proving that the pole time. Oh, big moment for Checo. Big twitch at the rear end. Did catch that on board from Sora. This is going to allow Richie to get a little bit closer. Obviously the battery is not on Richie's side here as Alpha picks himself up. A 2-second time penalty as Richie runs wide, and Sora, that's a gimme for Sora there. So it's around the outside, the loss of momentum for Richie off the curve and in the gravel very slightly, as Sora now is looking at the back of Checo. Checo probably using up a fair bit of the battery to try and keep himself as far away as per humanly possible from that Mercedes, who is very quick. You can already see Sora is dropping Richie, as it looks like Angelissimo's caught up to the back of Adam Lee. Adam Lee looks like he's had a moment somewhere. 7-10, 6 tenths the gap between the two of them. A little bit of a lock-up. TMS Sora is once again going to look for the gap. See how close he can get. Obviously in these conditions it's purely on slipstream and seeing if they can actually get past. However, we're going to go back to the front. Angelo trying to see if he can get close, but looks like he didn't have enough traction. Sora, I believe Checo's made a little bit of a mistake. I believe Sora's just made the move into the final corner. So what a move there from there. As Checo now using the battery, depleting almost all the battery, see how close he can get. The Mexican driver doesn't quite get close enough to the back of Sora. Now that's going to be easy move, done and dusted. Richie now going to get close once again, and it will be fight resumed between Richie and Checo as we're on lap 4 already of lap 5. It is 6/10 of a second gap. Tom Gorin has edged himself into 1 second. Obviously no DRS in these conditions. Alpha Orti with a 3-second time penalty at the back of the field, and another 2-second time penalty for corner cutting, so he's not having fun at the back of the field. There's Sora, Kirby, it looks like Rosary has crashed on the straight. I don't know how that has managed to happen, as Kirby has lost a lot of ground there as well. Not entirely sure what happened to Kirby. There might have been a spin or some contact between the two of them. Angelissimo, he's trying still, he's desperate trying, as Adam Lee is really struggling. Obviously we know Adam Lee, I have seen Adam Lee in action, has lost the podium on this very circuit at one point before. Angelissimo is going to try and go for it down the inside. Adam Lee covers Angelissimo to the outside, however it's not the line for the final corner you do want. Adam Lee losing time, hand over fist to Scott. Angelo, this is a big moment that's going to allow Tom Gorin into the fray. Scott with a 125.4 is that, and then 24.7 is going to be the lead. Is going to be the fastest lap for TMS. Sora at the moment is currently not going to matter a thing though, as Sora is not currently within range. Tom Gorin using a little bit of the battery, the Alpine driver getting close to the back of the Ferrari, which is struggling for traction coming out the final corner, which could be his Achilles heel if he can keep it within range. Angelissimo looking at the back of it, you can see that Alpine getting closer and closer and practically pushing the Ferrari through the corners. Ferrari using a lot of the battery. However, I think Scott is going to take the final. It's going to take the 3 points for the first race. It's going to be Adam Lee who's going to finish in P2 most likely, if he can actually hold at bay a very fast Angelissimo through the corner. So I wonder how much more wing. Whoa, curb there, nearly catching out Angelissimo. However, does keep hold of the position. Tom Gorin looking to try and get himself as close as possible. Half a second is the gap, just under half a second. Angelo again using all the battery he has, but he's probably going to run out of deployment before he gets to the end of the zone. However, we're going to go back to the final corner. Scott W is about to cross the finish line and is going to win the sprint race here at RFL. Still had battery on hand as well. Does win the race. Adam Lee, is he going to hold on to it? Yes, he is. Does hold on to that. Tom Gorin P4 with Vapid in P5. Sora in P6 after his spin early on. Good recovery drive from Sora. Kirby in 7th. Checo in 8th. Richie in 9th. Cal is going to finish P10. XCR Senna picking up a penalty in the final corner is going to get the, potentially not actually, So Fresh might well get him on, may well get 11th place back. So no points once again, but no points in this race. So that is a few more points. Nope. I believe Alpine did not get any points, but the thing is that's 3 more useful points for Haas in the chase against Williams, who did not pick any points out of this sprint race. So, and I believe Alpha Arti is going to be the final car to cross the line, so we're just keeping an eye, as I don't know what Alpha Arti is doing. His best impression of the cutting some grass from Bottas. Arti, what are you actually doing? Yeah, that was expected when that would happen. Artie, I genuinely have no idea what you're doing. That's just idiotic. Anyway, that aside, because I don't know what that McLaren is actually doing. Sora gets driver of the day, even though started on pole and dropped back. Good one, game. Not sure on that one from that. Not sure. Scott with the interesting celebration. Does get the 3 points from the sprint race. Adam Lee will pick up the 2 for 2nd place, and 1 for Angelo at his home Grand Prix. Picks up the first podium. Obviously an Italian and an Italian car. It'd be nice to hear the Italian national anthem if I had any way of doing that, but unfortunately I'm not sure if I do have that at the moment. The complexity is to do that with the stream, so I had to make do with the standard F1 theme. Anyways, your grid for the feature race, it is going to be Scott on pole position. Made the most of the actual a good run off of the start line, getting Sora off the start. Adam Lee will be alongside him on the front row. Then it is going to be Angela Simo and Tom Gorey in third and fourth. Vapid will be alongside Sora, who will be looking to make amends for the spin in the 5-lapper race we've just seen. 5th and 6th place. 7th and 8th is going to be Kirby and Checo, the Mexican and the American and the Mexican. Richie and Cal will be 9th and 10th. XCR Senna in 11th, with So Fresh in 12th. Flying Rosary in 13th, obviously with the DNF very late on, and the Alpha Ori, I'm not sure what he was doing, but he gets disqualified from the session. Only I think an Artie said I believe we know anything of what he's actually doing, but yeah. Did catch some of that on stream already, so just be careful of what you do. So we're now just waiting for the drivers to ready up. MG's picked up a Red Bull, I'm not sure if it's... I'm going to just have a quick old ask. Callum G, if you're watching the stream, you need to leave the lobby, or otherwise you will be kicked. Fortunately, I didn't get enough time to actually do that. Anyway, with that said and done, a little bit of silence in between. The lobby is currently just being reset, so as we just wait, 32 laps await the drivers ahead. All this sort of... Okay, alright. We're just going to ignore you then. While everyone is getting the lobby reset back up, we will hopefully get the... Oh, don't want that. Checking something. Still a few there. We have Alex in the stream. I believe So Fresh is actually in the stream. Good evening to you, sir. Hopefully you have a better race and a better main race than sprint. But welcome to the stream for this week. 14 drivers will tackle 32 laps of this circuit. Will be interesting to see how the time penalties affect and shape the race. Because it will be an interesting one to see. However, while we are waiting for everything to be set up, say this is your time to grab your refreshments, and I will be right back. Welcome back. Obviously, just been away for just getting some stuff sorted out. We are currently just on the grid, as you can see at the moment. Just waiting the drivers to put their setups off. Obviously, it was just a wet sprint race. Obviously, we could see some weather in the main race. However, I'm not entirely. May well do, may not do. Who knows? But we'll be interested to see how it all shapes up with the different setups and different wing levels, because while you want straight line speed for this track, you do want some cornering ability, because if you set your wing too low, you'll be a missile on the straights. However, you won't have the cornering grip to go with it, and we'll be sitting duck in the corners. However, not a lot of this track isn't really where you can overtake properly, so all these places you're just going to be following cars, unless you can be ingenious in finding a way around them. But we're interested to see how the drivers do approach the race, the different mindsets that people go into, obviously. Have a quick. We'll just wait and see what the drivers do decide what to start on. As the drivers are all underway, enough dilly-dallying around, let's get the action underway. So, have a look at the tyres that all the drivers have elected to start on. So, your starting grid forming. Scott has opted for the mediums, only to Adam Lee on the softs. Going to be very quick on the initial laps, but will have to probably stop early for a set of the hards, but can go a long way on the hards. The hards will do that. Angela Smo, Tom Godin, Tom Vapid, Sora, Kirby. There is someone off track there. I believe that was what on earth just happened there? Someone just got hit off. I don't know what that was about. Kirby and Vapid have been reset back to the grid, so I don't know what's just happened there. So Checker on the mediums with Richie on the hards, so going for a little bit of a gamble there. So Red Bull driver. Then it is Cal, Senna, and Sofresh on the mediums again. Rosary 13th on the softs, so looking to make inroads on the midfield runners early on, and L40 back on the hard compound tyres. Hopefully looking to make some ground up again and maybe be a little bit better with the corner, with keeping within the white lines. Hopefully learned his lesson from the sprint race We will have to see, as the drivers are starting to farm up, as Scott is going to be lining up first, even though he's not actually in first at the moment. He must have spun at some point in that. It is not uncommon to see Scott spin on a formation lap, as has been spotted at Bahrain, I believe. As the drivers are starting to farm up. Oh, that's just completely... And he's going to probably get reset. That's allowed. Okay, fair enough. When his car directly across at Adam Lee. Okay. I wasn't entirely sure on that one, Scott, but unorthodox. Give me a decent camera angle, game. Jeez. 5 red lights are on, and it's lights out and away we go. Adam Lee, not the great start in the world. He's going to go side by side with Landrissimo. He's going to try and go side by side and have to go around the outside. The Ferrari driver is going to keep it on the inside, but it's not going to get close enough to make the move. Adam Lee needs to make the most of these tyres early on to try and get past Scott. However, Scott is defending the inside at the moment, but does know it's probably not the most important thing to have to defend too heavily at the moment. Adam Lee, as I say, will need to make it stick early on. There's been a huge tramble of cars right behind Adam Lee. Is going to go side by side with Scott. You can get good runs around the outside here, but Adam Lee not quite close enough. It's going to be Tom Gordon is going to be close as well. Alfa and Senna, as well as Rosary and Senna and so fresh sure sort of positions at the back of the field as well. As it looks like Tom Gordon is going to try and make a move, but Checo quietly up to P6 off the start. However, we have TMS Sora alongside him. The NXM driver just leaves just enough space. However, Sora has to back out of the move, but will try and go, has the inside line for the next corner. However, Checo is going to keep the line here and does keep hold of the position. Richie falling out of DRS range as Alfa and Rosary are going to go side by side as well, just a little bit further back. I believe Rosary's made a little bit of a mistake there, or there's been a little bit of a collision between the two. Tom Gordon, meanwhile, a little bit of a twitch there from Checo as Sora's going to go for the move here on Checo. Checo will see this on board. There's going to probably be a little bit usage of ERS here from Sora. That Mercedes gets closer and closer. However, he's not going to be quite nearly close enough, and does not work out for the Mercedes. And Checo is away once again, as it looks like Landrissimo is struggling once again. Tom Gordon is putting the Ferrari under the cosh. So Fresh is out of the Grand Prix. I expect to see a safety car from this. Indeed, maybe not. So once again, it will only be one Williams in the points. So Fresh once again, I believe he's had a collision with either Senna, Rosary, or RA, one of those three near the back of the field. Senna is told, well, he's in 12th place at the moment. Alfa is managed to move himself up to P11, as it looks like it is going to just be a VSC. It's not going to be a full safety car, so the cars do have to keep to a delta. And you do need to make sure that you're very careful not to actually go for it, not to go too wide. However, this could be a chance for Adam Lee if the virtual safety car is out long enough for him to actually stop and not lose too much ground. So you could go into the medium, the hard tyres now, and see how far he can go in this race. He can probably get away with it. However, will he do that? I don't know. Adam Lee, obviously, he will know what strategy he's going for. Alfa has got a drive-through for speeding under the safety car. That's not ideal for Adam Lee as well, as that's just ended. However, Scott has been caught out on the safety car restart. And here goes, as Scott is going to have to defend the inside. Is he going to cover? He's not got enough. However, Adam Lee decided not to go for it in the end, and he's not quite got close enough. I think Angelissimo's been caught out on the restart, as well as Checo, as is a little bit further back. Tom Gordon once again is keeping himself close, as Vapid though I think has dropped a few positions as well. I've just seen Tom Gordon drop it in the last second. That's a little bit of a dangerous rejoin there from Tom Gordon as well. He's rejoined straight in front of Richie. That was probably a little bit off-putting for the Red Bull driver, as Vapid's going to try and go around the outside and give himself the inside for the next corner. However, Richie says no, I'm having absolutely none of that, and then keeping hold of 6th place for the moment in time, being a little bit wide though once again coming out of that corner, as Vapid is going to try and go for it once again. Oh, that is very late braking from Vapid. He did not, I don't think he was fully intent on where Richie was going to brake there in the Red Bull, and that's caused a little bit of an issue there, as Alfa has already picked himself up a time penalty, struggling with the corner cutting limits already, has dropped way off the back of the field. I suspect that if anything does happen to Alfa, it could be deliberate, who knows though. As Richie is defending from Vapid, we are looking back, now looking at Vapid, try and get close as possible. However, side by side for the lead, as per expected, those soft tires still working, as Scott will be able to keep himself close to the back of that car, as it looks like Checo as well has lost, I think, 2, maybe 3 positions. No, he's not actually, he's still there exactly where he was. I think he was going for a move again on Sora. However, he's not managed to make anything stick at that moment in time, and Sora still remains ahead. Angelissimo is now trying to challenge Scott for 2nd place and try and put the Haas under pressure. It is Ferrari power car versus customer Ferrari power car. for second and third. Angelissimo looking to keep his podium streak so far going. Already has a podium, a third place to his name from this sprint. Decent qualifying as well. Can he get himself on the top step of the podium and send the Tifosi wild at the other venue, which they do have for exceeding their very... As I say, I think Artie's lost the back end once again, so Artie having a lot of fun at the back of the field there. Not entirely sure what is going on back there. Senna and Rosary, I think, are battling as well. Rosary is in ghost mode, so I don't think he's actually here. Unfortunate there for him. Sora up to P4 as he's now chasing down Angelissimo for what is going to be P3 DRS Open for Sora. However, Angelissimo also has DRS and is trying to chase Scott across the track. Scott covers the inside, however does not feel the need to go fully defensive. The Haas driver does keep hold of second place, however those softs are going to start dying soon. Adam Lee really needed a gap. That virtual safety guard went in at the wrong time for him as Sora is... Angelissimo's trying to break the slipstream from Sora, but Sora is having absolutely none of it. Sora's going to send it down the inside, but it's going to be on the curb. That's going to compromise his exit coming out of this corner as Angelissimo keeps hold of the position. Looks like I think the Richie... I wonder if Cal's lost a few positions there. He's had a little bit of an incident. It's a little bit glitchy for Richie here. Sora, though, he's still close. There's another yellow once again. I believe that, I think that Alpha Artie has just reset the track in the back of the field, so he'll probably be pinged for that as well. Sora, meanwhile, right at the back, right at the front of the field here. This is still a 5-car train with Checo just at the rear of the train and is just about keeping himself within DRS range. Sora obviously trying to push for this first, getting that final podium spot. As we have a yellow again, it is Artie who is struggling to keep himself away and out of the walls, and I believe we may well soon see something happen there with that car. Who knows what is going on inside the head of that driver? Who entirely knows? That is Adam Lee. That's a big moment. I think those tyres have already started to go off. However, it's going to allow Angelissimo, as I don't think he's going to go side by side here. He was smart to think not to do that. Angelo is going to lose another. He's just back down to third, as I think Sora has spun and has had some contact with, I believe that could have been Tom Gorin once again. Who knows? As Checo's now up to fourth, as there's another penalty for Artie, as he's really struggling to keep himself in the reins of the track. Going a little bit further back as well, we have Cal and Kirby. Oh, that's a very close moment there as Cal almost then wiping the back end of Kirby out there with a very, very tight line that was never going to work for the Aston Martin driver, but Cal does keep hold of it and he's still in 10th and Kirby still remains in 9th. As it looks like Tom, Gorin and Richie, I think Richie's just been passed, but I think whoa, big twitch. Sora doesn't have a front wing. I'm fairly sure of that. No, he does not, and I don't think he's happy here with the Alpine here, as he's trying to use his ERS to try and get back past, but I think Sora's going to have to pit. Yes, he is, so that's going to drop him back out at the point. Scott has been passed, as while we've been seeing that, by Adam Lee once again. There's still some length on those tyres, but he does bounce across the curbs. A little bit of an issue there, as I believe that we may well see our first disqualification probably in the next few laps, probably, if Artie keeps going the way he is actually going. Adam Lee, the first of the front runners, that how easy it is to pick up time penalties, has picked up a time penalty himself. Tom Gorin is, meanwhile, we're going to look at further down the field. So far the action has been ongoing, as Richie still has Tom Gorin for company behind him, having to probably use a fair bit of battery to keep himself. He has a bit less battery deployment than what the Alpine does. Looks like Vapid is struggling to keep the pace up. However, Checo is doing a fairly good job right here, right now, of keeping himself close and keeping himself in the battle. However, it's probably being helped by the fact that the front runner in this field is Adam Lee on the soft compound tyres, who probably will be in fairly soon. Knowing the fact those tyres, if they go, they'll probably go about maybe to like 9, maybe 10 laps. If you can beat a tyre whisperer on those tyres. DRS for Scott. Adam Lee bails for the pits. Indeed, lap 8 was the pit stop. However, I think Scott just got nabbed the DRS and will use the ERS to keep himself ahead of Angelo. This is kind of important for his race. Checo though just hanging on. I think he's just dropped out of the range. Looking back though, I think Tom Gorian has got past Richie. Oh, that's a bit of a cut off there from Richie on the back of Kirby there. I think that was a little bit naughty there from Richie to actually not realise the Alpine was there, and I think the Alpine lost a lot of momentum of Kirby, so Kirby might not be 100% impressed with that exactly happening as Adam Lee's onto the hard compound tires and probably going to the end unless anything does happen. Yellow again. That is Scott now catching up to the back of Artie. I think Artie's already been lapped. Not having much fun with this race so far. The field has been split up a little bit since Adam Lee has decided to bail for the pit lane. Has been, as I say, Checo still doing a good job though, hanging in there in third place at this moment in time. And Kirby again, as it looks as a yellow is, at this point you may as well give up, because you're really struggling to even do anything here as he's once again got going, but at this point you're really only here just in case points end up being a thing as Sora and Rosary. I think Sora actually has got past that end. Artie, there's another time penalty for him once again. I'm going to go and see exactly what he's doing, just so that he's not doing anything dumb. What exactly are you doing? I'm not entirely sure. You're not... It doesn't even look like you're trying. Genuinely does not look like you're even trying. Probably spent the pit lane as well. Okay, back off him. Back to the action. It's probably wasted a little bit of time. It's Kirby still meanwhile it's still close to the back of Richie. However, does have Cal for company just behind. Obviously, Cal very nearly. White took the rear of the Alpine out a few laps ago with what was probably a very ambitious move in the Cal's head, but did not quite come off as he anticipated. But I don't think that was that was supposed to be a move that was meant to happen. I think it was just a mistake from Cal. Adam Lee, meanwhile, is 1.6 seconds behind XR Senna and is gaining ground. Obviously, those hards will be very, very fresh. And it looks like Kirby's going to try and make a move. The gaps at the front have kind of equalised out, as it looks like Richie's trying his hardest to defend from Kirby, and it looks like Tom Gordon has indeed got away. This is crucial. Checo now picks up a time penalty, so it's going to be a big moment there. It looks like Vapid is going to get past, as there goes so far from the session. Checo has no battery left in that car whatsoever. Kirby, the American, getting past the Brit. Richie M in the Red Bull. Is it going to be 3 wide? Said, oh, why have I been on that car? I think there's been a little bit of contact there between Cal and Richie. However, I think Cal's got it done. I think went off the camera by accident. That was not the one I wanted to go to on Senna. But I think Richie has been dropped back to 8th place. It's sort of has slapped the Grand Prix, but he is in the softs. So he's really hoping for a safety car to save this actual race. You lost it. Went into it and throttle in the corner. Fair enough. Unlucky there, Slow Fresh. You can come back stronger next week. You'll be alright. Checo, meanwhile, even with the penalty, is still keeping himself within the range, using a lot of the battery to try and keep himself within that range. However, really should be trying to save a little bit of battery if once he gets in that range to try and keep himself around. A little bit wide. That is a big loss of momentum there for Checo. That's going to drop him out of the DRS range. That's quite unfortunate for the Aston Martin driver. Of course, the commentator working its magic once again. Everyone's still carrying on the mediums as Senna picks up a time penalty in this race, as Artie, I believe, is maybe coming up for 2 laps down at this point. He's really struggling, as I believe there's also another car, that's Rosary, who's not in this race either. He will not be classified in the race. Currently running around in 12th. It looks like Adam Lee, I think, has spun. No, he's not. He's just lost position to Senna. I think Sora's got past. Senna's going to just immediately release the position to Senna now. Can Adam Lee come back at Sora? Obviously, Sora is going to be on soft compound tires and we'll have to pit again. Adam Lee can indeed now go to the end if there is no more safety cars, but he's using a lot of the battery to try and get himself away as far as possible. Angelo, meanwhile, at the front, has managed to get into range of DRS. Was briefly is kind of just on that edge range. Angelissimo with not much battery. Scott, I wonder what his battery level is. He's 50%, so Scott at the moment is looking good. Himself as though it looks like I think someone spun coming out that corner, or there was a loss of traction. So I think that it's going to be Richie trying to potentially line up a move sometime soon on Cal. However, Cal's going to get far enough away. Richie's not going to be able to do a lot here. He's going to have to burn through a lot of the battery. However, the overspeed is a lot here between the RS and the DRS. Lights flashing on both of these cars, with the RS light level being very low. That is a big move around the outside from Richie. Does manage to make it stick and does get left the space by Cal. So fair race in between the two of them. And Richie is back up to 7th and can maybe now chase after Kirby. Those mediums will probably soon be going off the cliff, and a lot of those drivers will be going onto the hard compound tyres, whereas Richie will be going onto the mediums. So you will be on the corker tyre at the end. However, it will be interesting to note if you can get close enough with all the battling that's been going on back to the front runners. So the gaps at the front have equalised out. Angelissimo still trying to keep as close as possible, just hanging on to DRS range. Does fall out of range just occasionally, does the Ferrari driver. However, does need to save a little bit of deployment. Vapid though is on much more deployment than what Angelo is, 50% compared to what is around about 20% for Angelissimo, who's probably been pushing a lot more. Vapid just been sitting patiently waiting and abiding his moment. However, here he comes, Vapid on the back of Angelo to take away 2nd place. Round the outside it's going to have to be for Vapid, and it's going to be a clean round the outside pass. However, it's not a good exit from Vapid, so there could be a cutback here. There is a yellow once again. I believe that is Scott. Scott has lost it. He is round. I think he's lost it by himself. So that has lost him a lot of ground. He's going to lose yet another position to Kirby as well. So that's going to produce Tom up into P3 and Kirby up to P4. That is a big loss of moment from Scott. He's going to have to get the dirt off those tyres and get himself back up to temperatures. There's a yellow once again. That is still going to be for Artie, who is just constantly, there's constant yellow flags, and most of the time you can tell it's that McLaren at the back of the field. As Angelo is still now, he has Vapid for company. Vapid obviously having just made the move. He does need to save a little bit of battery, does Angelo. However, as I said, battery, once it is gone on a track like this, is very hard to get back. And Angelo is currently seeing that happen. Vapid now can use a little bit of the battery he has probably saved to get away from the Ferrari and try and get this race winning, try and get himself some more points on the board and get further away in the constructors, with Williams being the only driver for Williams in the points, as Adam Lee has got a 6-second penalty now. It's not working out for Adam Lee so far. He's still down in P10. He's stuck behind Checo. He's stopped just now as it looks like some of the runners are into the pits. Tom going into the pits alongside Scott. Obviously Scott is going to have lost a lot of time with that spin, and that could potentially cost them this race unless there is any safety cars that can save the race for Scott and the Haas. However, it's not went well for the front runners so far. Obviously we've seen that Sora off of pole position lost a lot of position and spun, and then we've also seen that I believe Sora now is up to 7th, but he is going to 6th, but he's going to have to stop again. Angelo still close to the back of that, as it looks like Cal and Richie are close as well on track. However, it's about 1 second. The gap between those two, it's kind of like lulled out a little bit, as it can be around about times. The yellow flag in sector 2 and sector 3. That is going to be Alpha Artie getting out of the way once again. As I think he's just lost it off one of the curbs. I've just seen in the background. He's not having the most amount of fun. Amazed he is still here, to be honest. Out of all things, as Exeter Senna pits off onto the hard compound tyre. Scott, obviously it's going to be a lot of see if Scott can actually gain back that ground. Obviously we've seen how quick Scott actually was on the medium compound tyre, so it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes him to get those hards up to temperature and see if he can catch the 4.6-second gap that exists between himself and Tom Gorian. Lap 15 of 32, halfway through the race just about. The gap is about a second at the front. It is Kirby into the pit lane now, so we'll see where he comes out in relation to his teammate. It's going to be Cal in the pits as well, so Cal just behind those two close on track. We're going to go on board with Tom Gorian and probably Adam Lee and see if Adam Lee, see how close those two drivers actually get, as Kirby, I believe it's going to be hard tyre, so both of them. Sora jumps up to 4th. Obviously we know Sora has still got to pit, as I believe Tom Gorian and Kirby are going to jump Tom Gordon and Adam Lee are going to jump Kirby and Cal. It's going to be interesting to see if Kirby can come out ahead of Scott, though Scott is going to be just ahead. A little bit close there on the pit exit, but Scott does indeed just get it. However, if we have yellow once again, that is going to be the McLaren of Alpha Arty, who's oh, that's a big snap in the rear from Angelo. We've just seen on board with him as he's just come back on board with the Ferrari driver. Struggling a little bit in traction, obviously. Very short laps are in this Grand Prix, so the laps do tend to go quite quick as we have a work once again green. As I believe that Arty is down 1 lap, maybe 2 laps down, both into the pit lane. You've got to be careful not to speed into that pit lane. It is very slow entry. Now going to be very important to see where Adam Lee does indeed feed out into all this. Those two into the pits. Richie obviously will be carrying a few more laps. He will be coming into the pits sometime soon for what will be a set of the medium compound tyres. Does indeed carry on. Once again, the McLaren spins. It's becoming tradition now that whenever you see a yellow flag, most of the time it's usually Alpha Arty and the McLaren who's ended up spinning. You may well be on, yeah. Keep your chin up there, so fresh, you'll be alright for next week, as there's a 10-second time penalty for what is corner cut once again from Arty. He's going to get disqualified at some point in this race, and calling this now. Very easy to get, as I say, a lot of people, whoa, that is very wide from Adam Lee. That is going to cost him a lot of momentum, and it's going to allow Tom Gordon to get a little bit closer. His teammate, obviously, Kirby, is just a little bit behind, obviously, closing the gap, and this will be helping the battling. If these two battle, this will help Scott catch up. The gap's 3.3 and closing. Tom Gordon needs to clear. Adam Lee, obviously, knowing that Adam Lee has 6 seconds of time penalties, this is going to be very crucial for Tom Gordon to get past, obviously, with no penalties of his own in the Alpine. Ooh, a little bit of a bobble over the curb there for the Alfa Romeo. Just in front, Tom Gordon would have seen that and would want to take advantage of this. Is Checo is still up in P5 doing a great job. I believe Angelissimo and Vapid have come at 3rd and 4th, so have not come out in traffic. Obviously, Vapid and Angel will have to deal with Sora and Richie. Obviously, Richie on those tyres for 16 laps and will be coming in fairly soon, I would think, considering what he started on. Richie still going at the front on those tyres. Sora still going on those softs. I don't know what his plan with those tyres is. I'd be interested to know what the actual idea is there. Adam Lee, I think, has been overtaken. We've missed that on the stream as Tom Gordon has indeed got fast into P6. Scott as well, as we have a yellow once again. That is going to be Adam Lee once again, I believe. Adam Lee? Arty once again, who has dropped positions. Angelo's still in 4th. Once the yellow flags, as I say, it does mean that overtaking is a little bit difficult. We will see, obviously, a danger. Oh, there's a... I think he's got maybe a little bit stuck there. Maybe not, maybe not. However, Adam Lee still keeping himself close. Checo as well, still close on the back of Angelo, the Mexican and the Aston Martin versus the Ferrari, the Italian in the Ferrari. The graphs are at 1.1 seconds at the moment, and he's still, I think he's pulling away very slightly. A little bit away from Checo once again. That's kind of the thing you want to do there. Is there's another time penalty for Adam Lee, who's trying to keep himself as close as possible, but is just getting time penalties in the process, and it's not helping his case, as Scott is going to close up as well. Lap 18 of 32. They're really struggling to close up here and there. It looks like Sora has finally pit, and Vapid does move into P2. And everyone else will be promoted at one spot that does get past Sora, so Sora will probably drop back out of the points once again, I would think. Or he may drop back to just about where Cal currently is in P10. Sora now on to the hards. Interesting to note, obviously did not have a set of mediums left over that he could use again. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes for Sora. Does indeed emerge, probably in P10. Will not be jumped by his teammate. So they're currently on for 1 point at this moment in time. Half a second between Adam Lee and Tom Gordon, the closest battle on track at this moment in time. Tom Gordon still looking to try and keep himself as close as possible. Tom Gordon trying to look, as you can see, back. Adam Lee still keeping a watchful brief in the rearview mirror, as there's the ghosted Alpha Tauri getting out of the way once again. Not much battery between the two of these guys. I think Tom Gordon just edges it on battery deployment, but not by much. Adam Lee's going to see how close he can get. 3/10 is the gap. As they close up, you will hear the lockups, which do cut out the audio a little bit, as you can almost tell when that's the cue of someone using the deployment, or the deployment. The battery is getting used. Adam Lee's going to burn up all the battery to try and get past 3%. He does indeed go back through Tom Gordon. This probably doesn't help him out massively. He really needs to save some battery and try and save for a few lapses on our yellow once again. You can guess who it is. The light, obviously, the red light obviously indicating low ARS deployment is now constantly on in that car. Well, Adam Lee, a little bit wide, however, does get it back. Does get it gathered back up as we see a sideways McLaren. Obviously, that's got to be a little bit distracting for a few of the drivers now. Tom Gordon using a little bit of battery to try and get himself a little bit closer once again. Vapid closing up to the front, or closing up to Richie, who's still yet to pit in this race. Will be going potentially onto the softs if he wants to go long. However, the softs are not the most durable of race tyres. Probably likely going to the mediums, I would have thought, more like. Interesting to see. As Tom Gordon though is still close, trying to make the move once again. It is deja vu, but it's the other way around this time around. For that is obviously Adam Lee was behind the last lap, as Richie has decided to pit this lap, so it will be medium compound tyres. For the Red Bull driver, let's see where he does indeed come out. He should come out probably about midfield, probably about lower half of the top 10. And here comes Tom Gordon, the battery a little bit used by the Alpine driver, and he is back past. These two are kind of feeding off each other and making sure that they actually don't lose too much time to Scott. Richie is going to come out in about P9, I would see. Rosary has rejoined. I think he's finally got his assists figured out. However, he's miles down, so I'm not sure what the point really is in him actually coming back. He's not really going to get any points unless there's an actual safety car at this point in the race. Sora, meanwhile, on Richie, obviously Richie on those tyres, is Richie is now just out of the pits. Obviously Sora has not been featured much in the stream since the little incidences that have happened for the Mercedes driver. Once again, plagued by issues. Little bit of an issue using the barrier to try and get. He will have the inside line for the next corner. This is not ideal for Richie, as he's going to try and go around the outside, but it's not going to work. And Sora's up to P9, sees an opportunity, and Richie is down to P10. Adam Lee, meanwhile, still about keeping tabs on Tom Gordon. However, it's about 0.8 of a second, and a 6-lap tyre difference between the two tyres. Between Tom Gordon and Adam Lee, obviously, both on the hard compound tyres. Does drop out of DRS, and I think Sora is trying to catch back up to Cal in 2.5 seconds is the gap between the two of them. Till he is pushing by the minute, he is locking up. With an hour time penalty himself, Tom Gordon closing up to Checo for what is P3. The moment Checo would probably drop back to about P7. With the time penalties, Adam Lee probably drop maybe P6, and it's already, you can see the flashing light in the back of the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin using a lot of the battery to try and keep ahead of Tom Gordon. I don't believe we've seen these two battle really at all this season, so it'll be interesting to see how the dynamic of this shapes up. Checo, we know obviously is a good midfield driver, but we haven't really seen him in the top field really. But we've seen pace from the Aston Martin driver this weekend, as the gap is 2 seconds between Vapid and Angelissimo, and staying around about the same. Tom Gordon still trying to get past, however is not been able to get close enough yet. Obviously is a little bit of a wide card. That is Artie once again, who is struggling to keep himself within track limits. So quite surprised he's managed to keep himself away from getting disqualified, unlike in the sprint race. Tom Gordon is still going to be close enough this lap. However, Tom Gordon is going to use the battery to try and catch up. Checo has no deployment left whatsoever. That is a very late move there from Checo. A good read there from Tom Gordon. However, the move is still done round the outside, and now Adam Lee is going to probably try and size up a move on Checo himself, as Checo may well look to come back at Tom Gordon. However, the pace difference may be a bit too much. Cal and Sora as well. Cal goes past, Sora is past. Not really too much of a fight there from Cal. Obviously Cal knowing the quicker driver is, and Sora was the quicker driver, just let him go through. So you can go through, and I'll just go on about my day and settle the moment with what is P9. However, you will have Richie for company sometime soon. On medium compound tyres, Checo, the meanwhile, is really struggling on these tyres. Oh. However, Scott is closing up. At the moment, it's looking like Scott could get P4 out of this race. Would be a good recovery considering the spin. Scott is known for making the odd error here and there. However, though, Scott is going to have to use a little bit of the battery here to get himself past, get himself ahead of these two, the bickering pair in front of Adam Lee and Checo. Obviously, Tom Gorian has checked out and has got himself a second ahead. It means that Checo did not get DRS, and it looks like Scott used a little bit of the battery there to get himself close. Adam Lee, even though he's on older tyres, has got the better paces. So at the best lap of the Grand Prix, 118.2 for the Mercedes driver. Scott is trying to look for a move down the inside. We know Adam Lee has 6 seconds of time penalties, but is still fighting for the positions, which he isn't perfectly entitled to do. It's probably going to annoy Scott, but that's the rules of racing. You are allowed to do that. 2 seconds meanwhile, as the gap still at the front, as looks Adam Lee is trying to get himself lining up a move. There's a yellow once again. That is actually, for once, it is not Artie. That is actually Flying Rosary, who is actually been out in the gravel trap in the first sector. For once, as it looks like that's a massive mistake from Adam Lee, and it's allowed Scott run the outside. Scott, though, however, thinks twice about it. They'll stay behind for now, as Scott's going to once again look at trying to make a move stick and get himself ahead, as Adam Lee has fell out of a second. Checo has still remained there, as it looks like Adam Lee, that's a very smart plan. Get the DRS on Scott and make Scott use the battery, try and get away. However, also using the battery to get himself close, try and get back past, as it looks like the slipstream is being broken a little bit there. That's a bit too much weaving there, Scott. You're allowed one defensive move, and that was more than one defensive move. That might get reviewed by the stewards after that, because I'm fairly sure there was more than one defensive move there from Scott. What Adam Lee did there was perfectly entitled to do so. You are allowed to do that. However, the amount of moves there that was made by Scott on the straight, weaving to break the slipstream like that, you can make one defensive move as per the rules, otherwise it is not allowed. However, now that is allowed. Adam Lee's now dropped that down to P6. Checo now still keeping himself close and managing it. He's holding on to the back of Tom Gorian. Without the penalty, he could have been in a really good position here for what could have been P3. Ooh, a big clobber over the curb there. Scott now is going to try and get himself close. Adam Lee has dropped out of range a little bit. Oh, big mistake there, Adam Lee. Once again, it's going to be all over the back. And going to put pressure on the Haas. Obviously, once again, 2 Ferrari-powered cars. 1.9 seconds, 2 seconds. The gap still at the front. That gap has barely moved. Alfa Arti has finally retired from the session. Could this spark a safety car, or has he retired on track and nothing else happened? I believe nothing else has happened. So, we will carry on as if the action is normal. 25 and 32. Scott defending the inside, 3 wide. That is very wide from Scott. He's going to have to defend the inside from Checo. That was a bit of a dive bomb there from the Haas driver. Checo, that's another time penalty. I think he was squeezed a little bit there. Oh, that is a... Checo does see the dive bomb coming. Does drop back down to P6 for the time being. However, these two are going to go hammer and tongs at each other. This is going to help Scott. This is going to help out Tom Gorian massively. Just to pull away and get away from Scott in the Haas, and the Alpine driver can worry less about that. 1.8 seconds, 1.6. I wonder if Vapid has made a mistake somewhere, because that gap is closing. Scott has now got a time penalty himself. Adam Lee, I'm not sure what that is. I've just caught that on stream, Adam. So that's a little bit questionable on his part. I'm not sure what that was about. I don't know if he corrected there, or if he is just completely not let off at all. But that 3-second penalty is very much deserved there for Adam Lee. He is now on 9 seconds. Checo could jump back ahead of those. Now though, knowing Scott has a time penalty, Kirby, if he can get close enough, can potentially demote the Haas driver down another position. However, Adam Lee, once again, is going to get himself close. He's going to use the battery. Absolutely nothing in the tank for Adam Lee in terms of ERS. They're going to go side by side. Scott has the inside line for the first corner. Adam Lee side by side, not left much space. Will probably have to cede the position to the Haas car. Indeed he does. And he's going to try and have another go at there, and these two are going hammer and tongs at each other, and this is costing them time. Checo's still in the background of this battle as well. Adam Lee, these two both they're throwing the kitchen sink at each other. Quite literally in some cases. Not much battery between these three, most likely now Scott as well, probably in a very low deployment. Yes, he is. The battery on that Haas obviously had to use a lot of it trying to get past Scott. Well, Checo as well now. He's still holding on just. This is a chance for Checo maybe to save some battery to keep himself close. However, maybe having to use the battery to keep himself close. Enough for the DRS is just hanging on. He could drop out of that. Oh, it was a little bit of a corner cut once again from Adam Lee. It's 9 seconds, I believe he's on time penalties now. As Scott is desperately trying to get out of the actual DRS range, but it's not worked. It's half a second. Alfa Romeo still close. It's going to be very close. Scott is going to be looking in the rear view mirror rather than looking forward. 3.4 seconds. He's lost a lot of time. And just the gap is back over 2 seconds, so Vapid has regained the ground that he lost recently. But look at the gap, just close and close and close from Adam Lee to Scott. As Scott, it looks like we've got action further down. Sora has been passed by Kirby a little bit further down. DRS on the main straight. Obviously missed that while we were on board the action with Adam Lee. As Adam Lee once again, as looks like Sora is now pulling away a little bit on 3 lap younger tyres. Looks like a little bit of lag there from Kirby. And back to the battle where literally limbs are literally being thrown. At this point, Adam Lee versus Scott. Once again, Scott is literally having to defend for his life at this point. It is a embroiled battle. Adam Lee, even though he's doing 6 lap older tyres than the Haas in front, is still fighting and putting up a fight. There's Checo. It's a 6-second penalty now for Checo. He's overextended a little bit coming out of that corner. Into the next corners, it's going to be a bit over the curves for Adam Lee. He's using a lot more of the curbs than what Scott is. Scott as well will be able to see that Alfa Romeo just a constant menace in the rear view mirror, and looking to see how close he can legitimately get. Looking back, you will see the overspeed that Adam Lee will have. He's going to get closer and closer. Not much battery really to save for either of these guys. Not much saving going on. Sora, the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 18.055. Not much really going on in his world. He's 1.1 seconds behind, and he actually will join this battle. I've just realised towards the end of this, so Sora add another name into this battle because Checo's fell back. So I think Checo's made a huge mistake. It's going to allow Sora to close up. Sora, with no penalties himself, is looking to get close. A bit of a twitch. Whoa, a little bit of lag there from the Mexican driver in the Aston Martin. Sora looking to try and see how close he can get now to the back of Checo. Checo's fell out of this battle a little bit. This is why the DRS is so crucial. Once you're out of it, you really struggle. Not much DRS to really speak of. Angelo once again has closed up. 1.4 seconds. That's the lowest that gap has genuinely been in the last few laps. However, then Vapid does immediately respond at the front. It is back to 1.5 seconds. Rosary now picks up a time penalty himself in P12, the last of the runners at the moment, as Sora is looking to try and line up the move on Checo. He probably will get it done. In fact, it's going to be a gimme for Sora, as it looks like he runs wide, and now he has clear track in front. To 2.8 seconds, can he close the gap? These guys, he will get maybe potentially P4 out of this race, with these guys being hammer and tongs out of each other. The DRS lights you will see flashing absolutely everywhere in this train. Scott is under the cosh from Adam Lee. Adam Lee still keeping himself close even with the time penalties. He does not care. Big slide for Scott off the curb. That is all Sora needs to see, and he's got a little bit closer. It's not really, the curbs have not only 2 mistakes from Scott, but they've both been sort of major mistakes. Whereas Scott has managed to keep himself just within range. Sora closing up in the background. Riera is about to join this. This is about to be a 3-car train. The Alfa Romeo. That is a big slide. It is saved though. Sora seeing that now. That's another gimme for Sora. That's not so easy that time though. Sora did have to work for that one. Sora, is he going to use a little bit of battery here try and keep himself ahead. Scott now finds himself with a different car behind him and another car to fend off. The gap's 5 seconds now. There's been a lot of time lost as Rosary has lost it coming out of, is in the middle of the sector, I believe. As look at the gap that is closing. Sora's closing down too. Scott, not much battery on that Mercedes though. 1.3 seconds. In the meanwhile, 3 laps to go at the front. Angelus was closing the gap, and can the Ferrari send it to Fossey Wild to actually get in within a second of Vapid and try and get himself into the lead of the Grand Prix. That's going to be interesting to development and see how that goes. We'll have a look at that in just a little bit, because obviously we've seen what's going on. Sora is now going to take P4 probably in the next lap or so away from Scott. Look at the overspeed difference, the grip difference that Sora has. 12 laps on those tyres, 4 laps younger. That's an mistake from Rosary, I believe, who's having a little bit of trouble in the next sequence of corners there, which I believe is where there's Adam Lee. That's 12 seconds of penalties now. He's in a little bit of trouble. Sora just letting Scott know he is there. He's literally pushing the Haas through the corner now. Scott is really looking to try and get himself away from Sora. Sora is really putting the pressure on the Mercedes driver, with watching brief from Adam Lee just in the background to watch the overspeed difference with ERS and DRS enabled. He's going to get him probably halfway down the straight potentially if he uses the battery. However, not much deployment. They're alongside. Scott cannot go to the inside and try and squeeze. There is just enough space between the two drivers left. He's going to have to go around the outside if he wants to keep hold of it. However, it's not enough. Sora's back up to P4. Nice move there from the Mercedes driver. As it looks like now, can Scott keep himself close? Is he going to try and maybe potentially try and send it? No, he's not. Scott is a little bit wide once again, and it's going to be battle resumed between those two. However, we're going to have a quick look at the front and see how that's going. Angelo is closing and closing on Vapid. It was down to 1.2 seconds. It's now at 1.4 once again. Vapid now keeping just hold of his lead at this moment in time. Angelo is closing though. Tom Gorian, that gap has closed, and I believe Tom Gorian is finding a little bit of pace in the latter half of these races, even though he's on 2-lap older tyres. And it looks like Angelo, there's been a little bit of a mistake further ahead, I believe. I think Vapid's having problems with some of the curbs here, and it is really costing time. So I believe that is a Alpine potentially that's been in the wars. No, it's Checo and the Aston Martin who's been in the wars a little bit, coming out of that corner and is in a little bit of trouble. But the gap's back up to 1.5 seconds between Vapid and Angelo. We'll check that gap out as we go into the final lap. The final hurrah between Adam Lee and Scott. These two still battling each other hammer and tong as we go into it. This is the last real chance Adam Lee is going to have. We only have the one DRS zone here. Is he going to send it down the inside? That is a big send. However, I think Adam Lee did not leave Scott nearly enough space on their exit there, as it looks like he's weaving a little bit there. I'm not entirely sure if that's an angry weave or if that's something else. But Scott does know he will get the position back at the end of the race on penalties. But it's going to be interesting to see if there's any response from Scott on this lap. Using a little bit of the battery now. It's all steam ahead for Scott to try and get the position back on Adam Lee as we enter the final sector. Yellow flag ahead, as it looks like that's flying Rosary once again, who's having a little bit of an issue. Scott, that's very wide there. Does have to cut the corner. However, that's how you do it, Adam Lee. You slow down properly. We're going to go back to... Oh! I'm sorry there, Scott. You're going to have to concede that position. You're going to have to concede that position. You're going to have to concede that position, Scott. We're going to have to stay on board with this, make sure nothing actually happens here between the two of them. There's going to be contact. Yeah, this is complete kit. What on earth is just going on here? I think there's going to be a steward's report into that one. Adam Lee, what are you doing? Oh, you've just thrown away P6. Not sure what you're doing there. And meanwhile, Vapid has won the race from Angelo. It was 1 second at the line, just over 1.1 seconds, as it looks like Lee's going to lose another position and lost his head at the end of the race, and he's going to finish in P8. Checo P9, and I believe Checo's ran out of fuel. I don't know how you've managed to do that. Cal's going to finish in P10, and XCR Senna's going to be just outside of the 10th place spots. But there was some chaos that unfolded in that early part of the race. Some of it not always the best. There may well be some questions asked at the end of this because of what happened. However, those questions can be answered in the steerage room afterwards. Not right now. The drivers can obviously have a little bit of discussion about it. Just be civil about it if you can be civil about it in the site as such. But that is your run for the results. XCR Senna finishes in 11th and the final finisher of the race. Obviously Rosary was a lap down. I believe it was only a lap down. So, your driver TMS Sora driver of the day. Maybe potentially give that driver of the day Sora. We'll have a look at the results. So, your result, your podium finishers, it will be Vapid to take the maximum points from the main race, 25 points. All he really could take and keeps, I believe, one of the Alpines was on the podium, was Tom Gorian. Alongside, it was a second place for Angelo. He got close. It wasn't quite close enough though. Tom Gorian finishes in P3. Quite a quiet race for him. He was catching at the end, but just not quite enough to catch up. So once again, Vapid, not for the first time this season, spreads the champagne around with Angelo alongside right there, and we'll see Tom Gorian in the background obviously as well. Obviously Alpine, that will help Alpine out in the standings. Obviously Alpine no points in the sprint race obviously, and Vapid not getting any points either, so Angelo picks up points in both the races. So your results from the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix here in Imola. It is Vapid who takes the top step of the podium from Angelo in second. Tom Gorian finishes in P3. Sora is in P4 with Kirby P5. Scott in P6 with a messy final lap from the Haas driver. 7th, Richie. 8th, Checo. 9th, Adam Lee. 10th is Cal. Outside the top 10 is Senna and then Van Rosary. Your DNFs were Alfa Artia and So Fresh. Obviously So Fresh unlucky not to be involved early on. And your driver of the day will go to TMS. We'll go to either, I think TMS Sora. Good recovery drive from him. We'll get the drivers in while we're waiting, and then we'll get everything else sorted out once everyone is in. Congratulations to everyone who didn't make it in that race, because that is definitely a race of attrition. Ooh.
Jesus Christ. My bones.
Make sure all your audios are included so everyone can hear your wonderful voices.
My bones are popping in my fingers. Jesus.
Oh my god. GG Vapid. GG. I tried, man. I tried. But if it wasn't for that spin, man, I could have won that.
Well, welcome, gentlemen. If all three of you have your audios included, we will start.
Yeah, we do.
Welcome to the podium, everyone. We will start with our P3 finisher. Tom Gorian, congratulations on the third place. Talk us through that race from your point of view. Obviously, we saw a little bit of action from you in the early stages of the race, but obviously in the later half of the race, you were kind of just consolidating third place to a point, but it looks like you were catching. Talk us through.
Man, well, first of all, GG to Vapid and Angelo on a great drive. I mean, that was in my mind the most intense league race that I've probably ever had on any game. Never mind this game, like any game I've ever had. Man, qualifying, underwhelming. I mean, I was doing literally high 16s. And flat 16s in practice, and we get to qualifying, and for some reason the pace just dropped off. First lap I did 69 was nowhere, and the second lap at the end of the session was only good enough for 16.4, which put me 4th place. Surprised I out-qualified Vapid, but yeah, the rain was raining for the sprint race, so altered my setup a little bit. As far as the sprint race is concerned, yeah, I was boxed into turn 2. I was boxed on the inside between me and Sora, and unfortunately I think Sora made contact with me. He just squeezed me onto the curb, and I think he spun, and Angelo took me and I was just chasing him down all racing. Yeah, Vapid was behind me, but I was able to close the gap, well, to extend the gap to Vapid. And then the beginning of the race, I don't really know much about it. I got a good start into P3. I think Sora spun early on. I'm not sure what happened to him again, but I was in P3, and then for some reason the rear just lost itself on turn 5 or 6. It was dropped down 10 to 10th place. Thank goodness it didn't reset on track, because that would have been an instant 15-second time penalty, which was critical. After that, I literally told Kirby that we had to go aggressive on strategy. Surprisingly, there was no safety car in this race, that was a shock. So I had to go aggressive on strategy. I had to pit 1 lap early before everyone else. Checo literally pitted a lap before me, so didn't expect that. Pitted for hards on lap 13 and just pushed, jumped Scott and Kirby. But the dark horse was Sora in this race. Obviously, he was the fastest man on track today by far. I don't know what that guy was running, but I don't know how he's feeling, but he should have won this race based on pure pace alone. But his strategy was very questionable. I think he did double softs. Was double softs and hards? I'm not sure, but his pace towards the end of the
believe
race
he
was...
started in the mediums.
Yeah,
he had to go into softs early on, and then he went to the hards.
Yeah, so after his early stop, his strategy was a mystery, but his pace was mental, and Kirby was literally, and Scott as well, was giving us gaps. His times were just absolutely rapid, and there was a bit of a panic, I can't lie. And then I had a great battle with Scott. I don't know if I overtook Scott. I think I did, but I had a good battle with Adam Lee. We were just swapping positions, just using the DRS. The last thing I wanted to do was for him to hold me up and vice versa, so Scott could catch up. So we just literally did the DRS swaps for 3-4 laps, and then I was able to pull away from Checo. He came back at me for like 1 or 2 laps, but then I extended the gap to like 1.5 seconds. He made a mistake, and then he was like 2.5, 3 seconds behind. Scott overtook him, and then I was able to control the race from there, and then I was pretty much in third place, where I was in no man's land, really. I was extending the gap to the cars behind, but I was slowly closing the gap to the cars in front. I was just waiting for a safety car at that point, because I felt like the only chance I was winning this race was a safety car. Or if Angelo made a mistake, or something like that. Vapid was making slight mistakes. He was losing like 5 attempts a lap to Angelo, and I was just hoping that, either those two crashed or Vapid span or something, but unfortunately nothing did happen, and I came home in P3, but you know what? Listen, man, that was the most intense league race I've had ever, and you know what? I'll take it. P3. I gave everything that I had today, and P3 was the best result that I could today.
Well, thank you very much for the great insight into your race there, Tom. I was going to ask another question, because you actually went on quite a while there. I don't actually have to ask the question because you already included it. So the answer I was going to expect in that. So we'll just go on to, obviously, next track up is probably a track either people will love or hate. We head to Catalonia next.
Oh, okay, nice.
So, your take?
I mean, obviously, it's been redesigned. The hairpin is now a sweeping left corner now, pretty much. It's still a tight and twisty technical track where I think downforce will be more important. If you have someone like Scott, where you're notorious for running low wings, I think you will suffer a lot with that sector, with the first and third sector. But yeah, I think strategy will play a part. Yeah, I do like Spain quite a lot. So hopefully we can continue the point streak and get another podium as we march towards the constructors' title.
Well, best of luck with that. Congratulations on your 3rd place. And we hope to see, we'll look forward to seeing the podium potentially next week in Spain at Catalonia.
Yeah.
So, on to 2nd place. Obviously, the Tifosi will be cheering you on with that result. Obviously, welcome to the podium in the Ferrari, Angelissimo. Talk us through your race. Obviously, you had a great battle with Vapid, but as I say, just talk us through.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations to Vapid. He's finally done it. Happy for him.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Tom to get back to the podium as well. He did a amazing job
GG,
catching
man.
up to me at the end. GG
GG.
to everyone. Also, Yeah, basically qualifying didn't go according to what I was imagining. I had a small moment, lucky not to lose the tire, but managed to get a lap in. Not as good as I expected, but wasn't too unhappy with that. Sprint race was okay, had a good start, managed to have a balanced setup between enough downforce but still enough straight line speed. But I was managing to keep up with Adam, jumping from P6, I believe, to P3 at the end of that race. And obviously, the wet felt good. I was comfortable with the car as well as in the main race. Had a good start. Got myself into position. I had an unfortunate accident with Sora. I still need to check exactly what happened. But after that, it was basically Vapid and I for the rest of the race. I tried to put him under pressure, make him make a mistake towards the end. He made a few mistakes, but then gained the gap back again, and I was just hoping for him to get a penalty while I myself was trying not to get one yet as well. I was on 2 warnings for the last final 10 laps, so that was a bit stressful. But in the end, it wasn't enough, but Vapid fully deserves it. He managed to get himself into position, prime position to lead and win the race. And yeah, I finished second. You have to say, it's probably the most stressful league race I've had since starting 6 years ago. So
Oh,
happy with that, really happy. Happy for everyone on the podium, what they managed to do today.
oh.
As I say, obviously, once again, as I say, congratulations. Obviously, it was nearly, but just not quite, really. I mean, obviously, you would have had the Tifosi cheering you on from the crowd. Obviously, you being an Italian in an Italian car and an Italian track, it would have been the perfect combination there, but just not quite to be.
Monza's next, maybe, who knows.
Is it Monza? No, it's not Monza.
No,
No,
Monza's
it's
the next.
Catalunya.
No, Monza's the next Italian track. I mean, I have another chance.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's completely different to this one, though.
I know,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Obviously, you touched on. Obviously, we have Catalonia up next. What are your own thoughts going into that?
I haven't raced too much with Catalonia in this game, to be fair, but the few laps I did quite enjoy the new layout. Bit more swoopy, less hairpins, maybe a bit more difficult to overtake, but overall, a nice track. I enjoy it. I have quite a lot of fun there, usually.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for your wise words there, Angelo. Congratulations on your second place.
Thanks.
And we move on to the race winner for, once again, carrying Williams on his back. It is Vapid, who I believe he's back on the top step of the podium for what is the first time in a while.
Damn it.
But as I say, welcome back to the top step of the podium, Vapid. Obviously, it's been a while since we've seen you in the top step, but talk us through.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm quite shocked I've even won the race. It's my first RFL win since season 6, so it's my first, basically the first one since the comeback RFL. I'm really happy with it. Yeah, first of all, kudos to Angelo and Tom. They both drove fantastic pace, and yeah, my pace really wasn't looking great coming into this weekend. I was struggling to keep up with Tom, and I just thought, I don't think podium, well, I thought a podium might be on the cards, but the race one definitely not. And then when I had seen the pace of like Sora putting that 1:15.5 in the quality, I'm like, yeah, that's a done deal. He's going to have that in the bag. But yeah, I didn't have the greatest of quality. I just couldn't hook the lap up at all. It's generally one of the tracks I do tend to struggle in qualifying. It's not a track I excel at. But I managed to keep my head down. Took the opportunities had arised in the main race. My pace on the first stint seemed quite good, and if for some reason it kind of dropped off a little bit. And the second stint, I seemed to have a bit understeer with it on the hard tyres for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah. Overall, Angelo had pushed me all the way. It was, I had to watch what I was doing as well. I was want to pick up penalties while also trying to keep the gap to Angelo because his pace was absolutely rapid. And yeah. Overall, I'm really happy, and kudos to Tom for making a comeback drive to get in a podium. I think both of them drove fantastic races, and yeah, I'm just now glad I can call myself a race winner this season.
Say congratulations on that race. When obviously it's been a couple of seasons coming, obviously. But as I say, obviously you've got the duct obviously now. Hopefully we'll be able to see you more on the podium on the top set podium more often in the remaining races. Speaking of remaining races, obviously next race, Spain, Catalonia. What a track you enjoy or a track you don't?
I mean, Spain's normally been a good hunting ground for me in the past, but I've not really driven the new layout, or I've not really driven it on this game, so I'm not really too sure. I'm going to go in with it with open mind, but hopefully I'm still pretty quick around there, and I'm still a good hunting ground. I've picked up say 2-3 wins around that track, so overall it has been good. But if the likes of Sora and Quest and stuff show up, then I think I'll be just trying to pick up a podium. But no, overall, we'll just chip out with next week and see where we are. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
As we say, anything is possible in Formula 1, and it usually does. I've probably got that saying completely wrong, but yeah. But as I say, congratulations on the win. Congratulations, Angelo, on your second place, and Tom. Don't know why I got names mixed up. On third place. I don't know why I do that. I do that with car names as well. Anyway, we obviously that will round up the stream for RFL round 12 around the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it who watched the stream, and hopefully everyone enjoys watching it back. But we move on to obviously another one of the new reprofiled circuits in Spain for next week. Obviously, look forward to that. Obviously, from myself and commentary on that. But until then, we will be goodbye from everyone. If everyone wants to say their goodbyes before the stream ends.
Bye.
Bye everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
America.